In this tutorial, we are going to go over the Mechanical Crafter from the Create mod so you can use it just like a pro. This is a Mechanical Crafter behind me. It's a grid set up so that you can automatically craft or craft much larger things than you could normally craft. Now, there are currently 4 recipes in the Create mod that are larger than a standard crafting grid, so you will only need a crafting grid of this size for very few items. But they are also great for various forms of auto crafting, and we're going to go over how to do all of that right now. Now, a Mechanical Crafter is going to require one of these per 3 crafters. And you can see how you make those right there. Polished rose quartz and an iron sheet. This is probably the biggest bottleneck you're going to come across because it does require nether quartz. So you do have to go into the nether to be able to make these. And then Mechanical Crafters over here. There's the recipe. You take your electron tube, a brass casing, and a crafting table, and you get 3 Mechanical Crafters every time. Now I've went ahead and set up a little bit of a power source so that we can play around with some Mechanical Crafters. You'll see I'm using cogs here. That's because the Mechanical Crafter only has cog input. So you got to put it right next to a gear just like that. Now we're going to go ahead and start out with a 3x3 crafting grid. So there you go, very similar to a crafting table. But you'll notice there's these sort of arrows that are all pointing down. If we were to use the system like this, everything would just go down into these bottom 3 slots and stop there. So we have to connect all the slots in some manner. And you can do it by rotating these with the wrench. Now you can connect them any which way you would like. It doesn't really matter as long as they're all flowing into one singular grid. Let's do that, maybe that. Whatever we craft here is going to have quite the path to go through, but this is just to show you how the pathing works. And then finally here, we're going to take this last arrow and point it to the side, and this is where anything you craft will go. Now this path is a bit of a mess. It would take a while to get all the way around, especially if you're using slow rotation like this. So I'm going to give it a little bit easier of a path just to speed up the process. And there we go, very similar to when we started out. They all drop to the bottom, but now the bottom row is going to push along into the chest. And you can take any item you want and you can fill up the slots, and if it is a valid recipe, then it will start automatically crafting once the slots are full. And there we are, a block of iron crafted up nice and quick for us. Now, if you speed up the rotation coming into the system, it will obviously craft a lot faster. Now let's try something a little different. Say we want to craft some shears. Well, you would put in 2 iron ingots just like that, right? But nothing's going to happen because we have all these other slots and it's waiting to fill up. What you need to do in this case is get yourself a button and give it a quick kick. And as you see, the slots filled in with empty casings, and now the system is going to start pushing everything in and should craft us some shears. And there we go, 1 pair of shears. Now, say we wanted to automate the process of creating those shears. I've went ahead and reduced the size of the Mechanical Crafter just so it's a little bit easier to work with. Now, the recipe for the shears is going to look something like that, right? But we have these empty slots still. And if we were automatically feeding material into here, it would feed every one of those slots. So you need to craft yourself some crafter slot covers. And right there is the recipe. 3 brass nuggets, very simple. You get those from breaking down a brass ingot just like you would an iron ingot. And we're gonna go ahead and take our covers and place those over the empty slots. And now you can see it's crafting up right away. Now for automation, you have to somehow get those iron ingots into the system. That can be done with hoppers or conveyor belts and chutes and all of that. But first, you'll need to connect your Mechanical Crafter in the back. And you do that by taking a wrench. And you'll see that when you highlight these little in-between borders here, you get a bounding box around them. And if you right-click on that, it will remove the bounding box and connect the Mechanical Crafters. So let's go ahead and connect all of these together. Now if we take a hopper, we can go ahead, throw in some iron nuggets, it'll automatically populate the slots and start crafting. And as soon as this one's done, it'll refill itself and create a new one. So there you have a very basic method of automatic crafting, but this only works when it's the same item going into the recipe. If you have multiple items, you have to do something a little bit different. So let's say we wanted to make a flint and steel. We could have the iron ingot going in here and the flint going in here. All I would have to do to this system to make it happen is put a hopper in over on this side, let's take our wrench and we're gonna go ahead and re-separate those right there. And since we still have all of our empty slots covered that we won't be using, we can go ahead, throw in some iron on this side, some flint in this side, and it'll populate the proper areas and start crafting us a flint and steel. And finally, here we are back at the big mechanical crafter. Now, the main reason you're gonna need one of this size is to make the big giant crushing wheels to get the best recipes you can out of breaking down materials, and they look really cool while doing it. And this is the recipe to make one of those crushing wheels. Now, if we just turn the system on, you'll see it gets thrown together. Awesome, crushing wheels. But like I said, there are some other recipes that require a larger crafting grid. And there's one of those that I have been waiting to make, and that recipe looks a little bit something like that. And then we put a gear there. Let's go like that. And finally, one of those. Let's go ahead, kick this thing off and see what it makes. Aw, yeah, potato cannon. So there you are, the Mechanical Crafter from the Create mod. I hope you learned something there and you like my cannon. Can't wait to use it on some of my server mates. So for now, I will see everybody next time.
You ain't feeling if you're trying, and ooh, gotta believe the future's brighter. You owe it to yourself to do what only brings you joy. So shut up all that noise, yep, shut up all that noise. Hey, just chill, I got all the time to kill. Yeah, I got good vibes, good vibes. I'm too blessed to give in to any stress.